Okay, you can begin.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Anne Sanchez, and I'll be presenting together with my teammates Jamel Graves, Solana Gatsby. So, to begin, I just want to tell you all we did split up this chapter in 15 different subtopics, which is the way we saw it in the textbook. So, if you all refer to your textbook at any point, it should be laid out exactly like this. Feel free to ask any questions. You could show raise of hands or any chat. Don't be shy, okay? We're gonna have a couple activities, so please just pay attention and try your best to answer accordingly. Okay? So the first topic is individuality and commonality. So I'll begin and then my other teammates they will be doing in between and switching, right? So just pay attention. So to begin, before I go through this slide, I wanted to read you all a poem which it is mentioned in the textbook, and it really did help me understand this part of the chapter a lot. So I think that's why I want to read it to you all so you all could kind of it will help you gather all the information. All right. So this poem is called Human Family by Maya Angelou. Right? So I'm gonna begin by reading that. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy. Some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse, demuse, delight. Brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the seven seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane, but I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love and lose in China, we weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Guinea and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland and born and die in Maine. In mirror ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. So that's the end of the poem. And I really think that if you guys go back and, or probably on your own timing, and read that poem again, you'll see that she really talks about every little aspect that the chapter talks about, which, as we have on the slide here, I'm going to read for you. Individuality refers to the unique qualities and characteristics that make a person distinct from others, like personal values, experiences, physical attributes, gender, ethnicity, culture, and environment, which she touched in that poem where she talked about. So physically, we may have different skin tones. She talks about blue, pink, and white, and brown, and things like gender, where there's so many males so to females, and these kind of things. All these things make us different, but at the end of the day, here where commonality refers to the traits and experiences that people share, creating a sense of connection and belonging, using their differences to find a common purpose, vision, or commitment. So this part, they really talk about the fact that we may all be different, but there's always going to be something that connect people. So for example, here in our class, our main connection is that we are all trying to study and do whatever degree, and we have to share this class to be able to reach to our goal, right? So there will always be some sort of purpose, some sort of connection that brings people together. Things like, okay, family. So, a lot of times people they may not have any kind of commonality with their family, but it's simply that bloodline, simply, you know, sharing that family that is the only connection to people, and you really have no other connection or no other purpose really to see these people in your life, right? So could I have your next slide, please, Jamal? So here I have a situation for you all to think about, right? Um, it's basically something like what we're doing here in class. So your situation is a group project for class. So individuality, in the sense of individuality, we see in student one is an international student who is used to a more visual learning, like using diagrams. Student two is a tech-savvy guy who prefers working with data and coding, and student three is an art major who brings a more out-of-the-box perspective to the group. So when we think about each one of these students, we see that they don't have anything in common. They are three different types of persons who have different personal values, different um, preferences, different ways of learning, different majors clearly that they're doing. So it's not like they're all studying the same thing. They may have different physical attributes. These are the things that we don't know, but what we know is that they are different in the things they study and their preferences, right? Commonality. They all share a common goal, which is to create a successful project that will get them a good grade. They also share similar experiences as university students, like dealing with deadlines or making new connections, or making new friends and things like that, because like we all in this class, we don't know each other. At least I personally don't think I know anybody in this class. And I would definitely say it was a task for me, meeting new people through making this group project and stuff like that. So it's something that they, as university students, also share, right? So the outcome of this would be by recognizing each other's unique contributions individually. So if we say the student one, who is the international student, she may say, well, okay, let's try and do the project with a lot of diagrams. So for those who like me are international students or like to learn with more visual learning, they will have that option. And the second guy, the second student, the tech savvy guy says, well, okay, let's try and put a little bit of data and statistics in there as well. And the third student may have said, well, okay, I'm an art major, so I could do like all the colors and all the decorating or whatnot of the project. So they may have all came together and give individually given that contribution to the group that made them kind of come together, right? So they can use their diverse skills to enhance the project's quality. And that is what they did. Each of them gave something and made their project something of quality, something of substance, right? So their shared goals and values, which is the commonality of it, help them stay focused and motivated. I think that more or less explains itself. So in summary, individuality celebrates what makes each person unique, while commonality emphasizes the shared aspects that connect people. Both are essential for creating a balanced society where diversity is valued and unity is fostered. Right? So you can move on to the next slide.
All right. Hi. Good morning, everyone. So, before I dive into my part of the presentation, on the screen, you'll be seeing a list of like different leadership traits. And I would like anyone, you could probably type in the chat or turn on your mic. And I would like you guys to tell me which of these traits that you see on your board you would associate with men versus women.
I would say that women to me are more adaptable and men to me are more assertive.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, if there's no one else, Jamal, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so why does it matter? Gender, I apologize. Gender diversity goes beyond male and female. It's a spectrum. Recognizing diverse identities fosters inclusion and innovation. Leadership isn't about gender, it's about skills. Studies show that diverse leadership teams make better decisions. Encourage evaluating leaders based on capability, not gender norms. The textbook highlights that leadership expectations often align with traditional masculine traits, which would be like decisiveness, competitiveness, or self reliance. But effective leaders integrate diverse qualities, breaking gender based leadership stereotypes. Women often face overlooked contributions in meetings. Research indicates that women are interrupted more frequently. Use techniques like amplifying ideas to give credit where it's due. So, like example, as let's say Andere said, quote unquote, repeat what she said, and just add on to what she says. Traditional gender roles can lead to women being perceived as less assertive, causing their ideas to be dismissed or credited to others. Trans and non binary individuals also thrive in workplaces with inclusive policies. Policies like pronoun inclusion and gender neutral restrooms create a safer and more welcoming work culture, improving retention and productivity. So, how can we create change? First of all, education. Gender inclusion training for all. Many biases are unconscious. Regular training helps challenge outdated perspectives and promote equity. Gender role perceptions are shaped by socialization from childhood, making education key to breaking stereotypes. Second of all, support. Mentorship and allyship matter. Encouraging diverse mentorship and allyship programs help underrepresented voices grow in leadership. Leadership models in the book highlight how mentorship programs help break down gender based biases and increase diversity in leadership. Number three, adapt. Flexible leadership styles build stronger teams. Different people bring different strengths. Adaptive leaders create space for all voices and skill sets to thrive. The concept of pluralistic leadership, which is diverse groups working together for change, supports the idea that adaptive leadership leads to better inclusivity and decision making. I'll turn you guys over to Jamel.
So, understanding cultural diversity. So, I have a definition here. Culture refers to shared thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of a group encompassing values, beliefs, norms, and communication styles. It is dynamic, changing as people interact and adapt. Multiculturalism is essential for leadership, fostering inclusiveness and collaboration. Leaders must recognize their cultural assumptions to create a cohesive environment. Race is a social construct without a biological bias, but has historically influenced societal structures and opportunities. So the key takeaways: openness to diversity, cultural understanding, ethnocentrism effects understanding versus awareness, respect and acceptance, promoting multiculturalism. So openness to diversity, leaders and participants must practice openness to foster cooperation, creativity, and inclusivity. Cultural understanding, by acknowledging, comprehending, and appreciating diverse cultures, people transition from ethnocentrism to multiculturalism. Its effects include limiting diversity and creativity by evaluating one's culture, understanding versus awareness. Understanding entails learning about differences, whereas awareness is the recognition of them. Respect and acceptance. Harmony is fostered by appreciating cultural diversity without passing judgment. Promoting multiculturalism, training, inclusive policies, and diverse hiring practices are some ways that organization can encourage diversity. So for example, we have language, we have traditions and customs in different regions. So an example of that would be a different greeting custom. So in some countries or custom, there are handshakes, bows, hugs. So I have a question. Anybody could answer. You could put it in the chat. How would you describe the culture in your workplace? Anybody? Don't rush all at the same time. Okay, so nobody. So moving on. So the dynamic nature of culture. Culture evolves with interaction and adaptation. Different cultures can coexist within one environment. So our example would be a workplace diversity, employees from various backgrounds working together. So that's it for me. I'll hand you back over to my colleague.
Okay, so understanding international diversity. Understanding international diversity involves recognizing and appreciating the variety of cultural, ethnic, and individual differences that exist among people from different countries. It's about being aware of the differences and learning how to navigate and embrace them in a respectful and inclusive manner. So I believe that the majority of people in this class should kind of have an idea of what this talks about because it's basically just, I mean, Trinidad and Tobago is built off of people from all over the place, right? This is history. This is our nature or whatever. So y'all should more or less have an idea of what we're talking about when it comes to international diversity. But by a show of hands, how many people in the class have traveled before? And I don't mean Tobago, okay? So y'all could raise your hands in the right. So I've seen two hands. Nobody else? Okay. So for the two people that traveled, can any of you all want to share what that experience was like for you and where you went, if you don't mind?
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, I traveled to Mexico last year, and It was pretty interesting to see how their culture is across there and how they operate across there. It's very different than how we operate in Trinidad. And they are very rooted in their culture and their background. And you might think, like, although we're in 2025, it might be a little more advanced. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that advanced. It's still like they living in the days of the Mayas in certain areas.
Okay. And could you probably share with us probably one, um, maybe a more diverse issue, maybe something that you are kind of issue you encountered being over there, other than, well, I would think maybe a language barrier.
The language barrier, I would say at first it was a bit challenging because I don't know Spanish that well, but over time, like getting to communicate with them on a regular basis, it was easier for me to
Mm-hmm.
understand. Although I don't know Spanish.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, you see, y'all kind of got a feel of one experience, and I'll share with my own with you guys as well. So, in my case, my mom, she's Venezuelan and my dad is Trini. So I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. However, last year my mom really wanted me to experience what it's like to study and the culture of Venezuelans and stuff in Venezuela. So she sent me, and I went over there to study with which is what I'm doing now. And it was such an experience where I do speak Spanish. And even though that was not difficult for me, they speak so fast that I felt like a foreigner. And when it comes to things like their culture, their food, it's like you would go and eat a pizza on a regular day, and they would leave pizza for like a Sunday where they can go and share as a family, and it's like a dress up thing. And so we as trainees would watch them like, why are they going and dress up in high heels and fancy things and just to go to Pizza Hut or any place that like KFC and these kind of things, they would make it a dress up thing, like this big event. And we are custom, well, if we come from work and we want to cook, we're going to buy a KFC or something like that. So it's all about understanding the their culture, their way of living, and respecting it. Not that's okay because different. You go in and be like, oh gosh, like that's so stupid. Like, no, it's not stupid. It's just their culture. It's just their way of living, right? So next slide, please. So some of the key aspects of understanding international diversity would be cultural awareness, which is what we were talking about. You're learning their traditions, their customs, their values. This helps in understanding the behaviors and beliefs of people from diverse backgrounds, right? Being open and respectful of cultural practices that may differ from your own, which is what I just gave you an example of, that not because your culture is different means that somebody else one is wrong or stupid or anything like that. Just kind of, sorry about that. Just kind of have to respect, the difference. Another one is effective communication. So recognizing that language differences can be a barrier, but also an opportunity to learn and grow. Practice patience and active listening when communicating with individuals from different linguistic backgrounds, right? And then you also have nonverbal communication. So such things as body languages and gestures occur can vary widely across cultures. So it's important to be mindful of these differences. So certain things like, we may talk a lot with our hands and people may take that differently somewhere else. And these kind of things, you have to be mindful about that as well when traveling. Adaptability and flexibility. So be willing to adjust your behaviors and expectations when interacting with people from other cultures. This can involve modifying your communication style, approach to problem solving, and social interactions. Right? So adaptability, it also means being open to new experiences and learning from them. So you can't expect to go to somebody else's country and be closed off because then it would make no sense because they would want to teach you things, show you new things, and you have to be flexible. Empathy and cultural sensitivity. So cultivate empathy by putting yourself in others' shoes and trying to understand their perspective and experiences. Remember that what you may experience in your country and in your culture would be completely different for somebody else. So just a little empathy, put yourself in their shoes. Some countries, as one of our classmates here shared with us, they may not be as advanced. So you don't look at them as, a country that has nothing or a country that is less than yours. You just have a little empathy and put yourself in their shoes. And, don't be biased because you have to be also aware of that, of cultural biases and stuff like that. So reflect on your own culture and how they may influence your perceptions and interactions with others. Work towards minimizing the biases and educating yourself and, seeking diverse viewpoints. So by embracing and understanding international diversity and all these aspects that we just talked about, you can build stronger and more inclusive relationships and contribute to a more harmonious and productive global community. And Solana, you could take over.
Yes. So, building on what Andrea just talked about, I'm going to go into your cultural heritage. And this is important because as it says on the slide, your background shapes your values, beliefs, and leadership style. So, understanding where you come from helps build bridges with others. Cultural identity influences leadership and teamwork. Your values and experiences shape how you interact with others. You can embrace them while learning about others. Our upbringing shapes our leadership approach. For example, some cultures value direct communication while others prioritize harmony and indirect feedback. Being aware of this helps us work better in diverse teams. Exposure to different cultures fosters empathy and adaptability. Step out of your comfort zone. Learn about cultures beyond your own. When we step outside our own cultural norms, whether it's by traveling or making new friends or even reading, we expand our understanding of others. This makes us more adaptable leaders who can connect with different perspectives. Inclusive leadership requires awareness of biases. Recognizing assumptions help create a more welcoming space for all. We all carry unconscious biases from our cultural upbringing. Recognizing these helps us lead fairly, make better decisions, and create an inclusive space where everyone feels valued. How can we grow? Learn. Read about your cultural roots and other traditions. Try looking into your family's history or researching traditions from different cultures. The more you learn, the more you appreciate diversity, sorry. Engage. Attend diverse events and connect with different communities. One of the best ways to grow is through experience. Attend cultural festivals, try new food, and ask questions. It's a great way to broaden your perspective. Reflect. What values from your heritage impact your leadership style? Think about how your background influences your leadership. Are you more collaborative, more direct? Understanding this helps you refine your strengths and grow where needed. By celebrating our unique backgrounds while embracing others, we build stronger and more connected connected teams. Leadership. Jamal, you could go ahead.
Okay. So the importance of multiculturalism. Sorry, the rain falling here very hard. So it fosters inclusiveness and collaboration, helps leaders create positive environment. So for example, schools celebrating a multicultural holiday to include all students is an example of multiculturalism. Building multicultural appreciation. Gaining an understanding of other cultures necessitates being open, conscious, and able to function in a variety of settings. The knowledge and abilities needed to collaborate successfully across cultural divides must be developed by leaders and participants in multicultural environments. So the key takeaways: openness is essential. Cultural understanding is a process. Respect and value in diversity and application in everyday life. People need to be open to learning about and respecting other cultures. The Hobbes model emphasizes the progressive and progression from cultural illiteracy to complete multicultural proficiency. Respect and value diversity. People should learn to value and incorporate important elements of other cultures rather than just accepting differences. Application in everyday life is only one aspect of multiculturalism. Another is the development of interpersonal and communication skills in a variety of contexts. So I have a question again. Let's do the David Hobbes model. According to David Hobbes model, awareness, comprehension, respect, appreciation, selective adoption, and multicultural competencies. So awareness, recognizing other cultures exist. Next we have understanding, learning about different cultures, accepting and respect, valuing other cultures without judgment, appreciating, recognizing strengths and weaknesses in culture, adaptive, integrating valuable aspects of other cultures, and last, multiculturalism, achieving comfort and effective communication across cultures. Okay, so my colleague will take over.
Right, guys. So, attitudes towards differences. Our views of people who are different from ourselves evolve over time, often progressing from unawareness in childhood to acceptance in adulthood. Experiences, both positive and negative, shape these attitudes. Negative experiences can lead to fear and prejudice, resulting in racism, homophobia, or sexism, while positive experiences can foster appreciation and embrace of diversity. So, when we talk about unawareness in childhood, we talk about when we are children, when we are small, we generally start with a limited understanding of differences. Children tend to be unaware of cultural, racial, and gender or other distinctions among people. They often form their initial views based on their immediate family and environment. So I am almost 100% sure that everybody in this class either has some little cousin or nephew or even a friend's child, your child, anybody around you. You must have came into interaction with a child at some point, and I'm almost sure that you would have noticed that they don't come up to you and say, "Well, you're browner than me," or you know, "Your eyes are bigger than mine," or any. They don't come and they don't see your difference. They see you as a person. Correct? Or anybody objecting? I'll take that and I'll keep going. Okay. So yeah, so as children, they don't look at differences. They just go off of what their immediate family may have the values that they would have gotten from their immediate family, or just simply seeing their other family like, okay, we all look the same, or even though we're different, we're all family, we're all the same. So they don't really pay mind to that. But as we grow, our experiences begin to shape our understanding of differences. These experiences can be both positive and negative and occur in various settings, such as schools, communities, and through media exposure. So as these children start to go to primary school and move on to secondary school and even some of them to university, that's where they start to learn about all the different cultures and all the differences. They start to notice all the big differences and all the little differences between themselves and other people. And that's where things like bullying start to happen. People pick on other people because they may be different in size, different in color, different in culture, and all these things. So, and that can cause the child to either be more negative than positive or positive than negative. And that's where things start to get more or less messy. Could I have the next slide, please? So in the textbook, they did provide us with this, well, a similar um table. Well, not it wasn't in a table form, but basically the same as this. It's called the Riddle Scale for Attitudes Towards Differences by Dorothy Riddle. It was made for the LGBTQ community, but students had found it useful to use it in this way as well. So we were talking about negative experiences and how that could encourage people to build up fear and stereotyping, limited exposure could cause a lack of interaction with diverse groups and these kind of things. And we also talked about positive experiences, which causes more things like appreciation and embracing the differences, cultural exchange, education. So in this table, you'll see it have levels of attitudes. You have the negative levels and the positive levels. Um, so you're gonna start off with repulsion, right? Repulsion is basically people who view different as strange, as sick, as crazy, and anything that they view anything that will change them to be more normal or a part of the mainstream as justifiable, right? Then you have pity. Views people who are different as somehow born that way and feels that this is pitiful. Sees being different as definitely immature and less preferred. So to help those poor individuals, one should reinforce normal behaviors. The next one is tolerance. sees being different as just a phase of development that most people grow out of. Thus, one should protect and tolerate those who are different as one does a child who is still learning. Acceptance implies that one needs to make accommodations for another's differences, does not acknowledge that the other does not acknowledge that the other's identity may be of the same value as one's own. So repulsion, pity, tolerance, and acceptance, they are all negative levels of attitude because it doesn't come from a place of genuine concern. It comes from places of, as I said, it's like you're being pitiful towards somebody, or it causes a lot. These things could cause a lot of homophobia, as which is what this was really made for, to kind of show that people who think this way, they may be homophobic, or, things like that towards the LGBTQ community and stuff like that. These kind of attitudes cause fear, they cause stereotyping. Same thing, like we said before, bullying, all these kind of things. When it comes to positive levels of attitudes, we have support. Works to safeguard the rights of those who are different. One may be uncomfortable oneself, but one is aware of the climate and the irrational unfairness in our society. Right? So those are for the people who are more supportive. Admiration acknowledges that being different in our society takes strength. One is willing to truly look at oneself and work on one's own personal biases. Appreciation values the diversity of people and is willing to confront insensitive attitudes. Nurturance assumes the differences in people are indispensable in society, views differences with genuine affection and delight, and is willing to be an advocate of those differences. So, when it comes to our topic, which is understanding others, you all could always go through this table and kind of see where you fit in, which I would hope, would be under one of the positive levels of attitudes, because we have to try and be supportive of each other despite any differences. You don't have to be the best and biggest supporter, but you have to try and be supportive to one another, or even, just simple admiration would get you a long way. And yeah, so that's basically everything. In summary, our attitudes towards differences evolve through a combination of personal experiences and societal influences. By actively seeking positive experiences and education, we can move from unawareness to appreciation, ultimately fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. I'll, Solana, you could take over.
All right. So if you look at the two images on the screen, it's basically the same thing. These are two different leadership approaches. One is consensus driven, and one is individualistic. Can I ask anyone to answer which approach? Okay, on the left is individualistic, so it's like you have someone stand up in front taking charge, and on the right you'll see it's consensus driven. That is more collaborative. Everybody has an input, everyone is discussing to come up with a outcome or a solution. So can anyone tell me, between these two, which one feels most natural to you? The one on the right, Jalissa said the one on the right. Okay, I would also agree with Jalissa. I would say the one on the right as well. But I have to emphasize that no single leadership is no single leadership style, sorry, is correct, and that cultural adaptability makes leadership more effective. Yes, Sydney, I agree. So, Jamal, you can go on to the next slide. Right. So culture shapes how we communicate, resolve conflicts, and make decisions as leaders. Understanding these influences helps us lead diverse teams effectively. Culture impacts leadership styles and decision making. Leaders from collectivist cultures may focus on group harmony, while those from individualistic cultures emphasize personal initiative. For example, in Japan, leaders often make decisions through consensus, which is the one on the right, and while in the US, leaders are more likely to make individual decisions quickly. Understanding these differences can prevent miscommunication. Diverse teams bring unique perspectives. Different cultural backgrounds influence problem-solving approaches, creating stronger, more innovative teams. A team with members from different cultural backgrounds will approach challenges differently, bringing creative solutions that a homogeneous team might overlook. Effective leaders embrace adaptability. Being aware of cultural differences in communication, eye contact, and hierarchy helps leaders connect better. Cultural norms shape communication. Some cultures value direct speech while others prefer indirect hints, and recognizing this prevents misunderstandings and fosters respect. So, how can we lead effectively? One, observation. Watch how cultural norms affect communication styles. For example, in some cultures, avoiding eye contact shows respect, while in others, it may seem untrustworthy. Being aware of this helps leaders avoid misinterpretations. Number two, listen. Be open to diverse leadership approaches. Instead of assuming that your leadership style is the best, seek to learn from how others lead. It can enhance your own approach. Number three, adapt. Adjust leadership strategies to be inclusive and effective. A flexible leader understands when to adjust their communication and decision making style to fit the cultural context of their team. When we acknowledge and integrate cultural influences, we build teams that are more collaborative, innovative, and successful. I'll turn you guys back over to Jamal.
Okay, so building from my colleague, communication. So culture and social differences in communication have a significant impact on how people interact, express themselves, and understand messages. So, communication differences by culture. While some cultures value direct communication, others rely on indirect expressions or metaphor. Cultural differences also exist in how people perceive time, body language, and eye contact. Speech communities, groups such as gamers, professionals, or ethnic groups, in which This is a group in which groups create common language usage standards according to factors like gender, ethnicity, occupation, or hobbies. There are important ideas interaction between members of different speech communities who are unaware of these distinctions. It can lead to miscommunication. Nonverbal communication is important. Physical space, facial expression, and gestures differ among culture and can cause advertent miscommunication. So getting past judgment rather than calling a communication style wrong. Consider how cultural context influences and how individuals would like to be treated. So question. Can you think of a time when cultural differences in the workplace confused you? Anybody could answer, put it in the chat. Okay, so nobody. So a
It
speech.
had a time I went on a job interview and we had to do a practical. We were learning how to make roti from these Indian people. They came from India. And whereas we in Trinidad might season down our chicken with a set of green season and stuff, they were only putting a teaspoon of this and a teaspoon of that. We thought that the food wasn't going to come out tasting good, but it ended up tasting the exact same, if not better. We learned that sometimes under seasoning the meat or the chicken does bring out the natural flavor of it. That was a cultural difference that confused me.
Thank you. So things to remember: embrace cultural differences in communication, be open-minded and adaptable in diverse interaction, and remember, according to Word 2004, sorry, different is not wrong, just different. So my colleague will deal with conflict resolution.
All right, conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is the process of addressing and resolving disagreements or disputes between individuals or groups. It involves various behaviors from confrontational to subtle approaches. Some individuals take responsibility and seek accountability, while others may blame. Different individuals and cultures may have a variety of approaches to resolving conflicts, right? So when we talk about conflict resolution, we talk about um, all the different ways that people resolve their issues. So, say at your job or in school or even in family, you'll realize that each one of these places will have a different style that they may use to resolve problems that may arise in the workplace or at home. Right? Conflict resolution is essential for relational leadership and any change effort as conflict is inevitable. Effective resolution requires focusing on the purpose of the change while maintaining positive relationships, staying ethical, and being inclusive. This approach is challenging, especially during conflict, but it's necessary to avoid isolation and ensure lasting resolution. So what that is saying is basically when you're resolving conflict, now I have people that they will just say, okay, 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 and go and stay by themselves and, keep it in and avoid everybody. It can't be like that if we're talking about leadership, and this is our leadership class, and that is what we're learning about. So you can't expect to be like that and still have, that leadership role going in a positive way, right? Um, so some of the key elements, you could go to the next slide, please. Oh, nothing as the video. Okay. So before I show that video, some of the key elements of conflict resolution is understanding the conflict. So obviously you have to identify the source of where the issue is coming from and acknowledge all emotions involved. Then second, we have effective communication. So active listening. You listen attentively to the perspectives of all parties involved without interruption or making judgments. Show empathy and validate their feelings. And clear expression. You communicate your own perspective clearly and respectfully, right? And that's how you move on. So three, finding common ground. You identify shared goals. So focus on the common objectives or interests that all parties share. This helps shift the focus from individual differences to collaborative solutions, right? And then you collaborate problem solving. So you work together to brainstorm and explore possible solutions, right? Encouraging open dialogue and consider multiple viewpoints. Implementing and monitoring. So you agree on action steps and you follow up, right? You have different approaches to conflict resolution. You have confrontational, which is directly addressing the conflict and seeking immediate resolution. You have harmonious, which is seeking to maintain harmony and avoid confrontation, often through compromise and collaboration. You have authoritative, which is deferring to authority figures and established rules to resolve the conflict, and you have collaborative, which is working together to find solutions that satisfy all parties, emphasizing mutual respect and cooperation. So I just want to show you all a quick 1 minute video on conflict resolution. So just give me 1 second to pull it up. You'll see my screen there, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Conflict Resolution 101. Conflict is a natural part of life. Managing conflict in a healthy way helps strengthen our relationship with people we care about. Here are 5 quick tips for resolving conflict. Number 1. Focus on the problem at hand. Focus on the issues being discussed. Bringing up old mistakes can get in the way of finding a solution. Number 2. Recognize and control your own feelings. During an argument, take a moment to collect your thoughts and feelings, then respond in a calm and respectful manner. Number 3, be willing to forgive. Throughout life, we have all made mistakes. Be open to apologizing and forgiving. The end goal is to strengthen the relationship. Number 4, don't just listen, but hear. Keep an open mind when another person is telling you their side of the story. Actively listen to understand their point of view. Number 5, negotiate and compromise. People's ideas or perspectives may be different from yours. Try to take others' thoughts into consideration and work towards a compromise. Thank you.
Right, so that's just a little video that gave you all some more insights and some tips when it comes to conflict resolution. So in summary, res, in summary, conflict resolution involves understanding the conflict, effective communication, finding common ground, developing solutions, and implementing and monitoring the agreed upon actions. By mastering these skills, individuals and leaders can navigate conflicts constructively and build stronger and more cohesive relationships. So, my colleague will take over from here.
All right. So now on the screen, if you look at the two options, there are two options that I want anybody, another thing, I want anybody to tell me if you were a leader and you had to choose between making a profit or focusing on employee benefits or, well, employee well-being, would you, what would you choose? And if anybody would like to answer. Okay. Well, either way, even if you don't want to answer in class, if you have an answer in your head, ask yourself if you would be okay seeing your decision published on the front page of a newspaper. Depending on your answer, if yes or no, you would know how to move forward from there, right? But Jamal, you could move on to the next slide. Right. Great leaders make thoughtful, ethical, and inclusive decisions. Understanding how we decide can improve leadership effectiveness. Ethical decision making requires a strong moral compass. Leaders should follow principles like autonomy, justice, and beneficence to guide fair decisions. Different leadership styles impact decision making. Some leaders prefer autocratic decisions while others value team consensus. In other words, some leaders make quick, top down decisions while others encourage group discussion. Effective leadership means knowing when to be decisive and when to seek input. The newspaper test can keep leaders accountable. Would you be comfortable if your decision was published on the front page? If not, reconsider your choice. Before making a choice, ask yourself, would I be okay with this being public? And if not, it might not be the right decision. So how can we make better decisions? Pause. Avoid rushed choices. Analyze the situation first. Quick decisions can lead to regrets. Taking time to reflect helps leaders make better choices. Consult. Seek diverse perspectives from well-rounded decisions. Different viewpoints can reveal blind spots and lead to stronger, more inclusive decisions. Apply ethics. Use frameworks like justice and beneficence. Ethical principles provide a roadmap for making fair, integrity-driven choices. By making ethical, thoughtful decisions, leaders foster trust, collaboration, and success. Jamal?
So we'll talk about leadership and communication. So effective communication is a key skill that enhances leadership and personal interactions. Communication involves more than just speaking and writing persuasively. It requires active listening and understanding. True listening is intentional and mindful, requiring empathy and an intellectual and emotional connection to another person's experience. Unlike sympathy, which involves feeling sorry for someone while maintaining one's perspective, empathy allows one to see and feel from the other person's viewpoint. Leadership and daily interactions both depend on effective communication. Persuasive speech and writing are only one aspect of true communication. Understanding others through active listening and empathy is another. To foster empathy and enhance listening ability, Carl Rogers placed a strong emphasis on restating what was said. Seek first to understand, then to be understood, was another piece of advice from Stephen Convoy that promoted deliberate answers as opposed to snap judgment. Both verbal and nonverbal cues are used in complex communication, which is impacted by gender and culture. So, for example, men often engage in report talk, focusing on facts, opinions, and independence, while women prefer rapport talking, which seeks to build connections and relationships. Women also tend to use bridging phrases, for example, it's just my opinion, but to invite discussion rather than assertive dominance. So, the importance of listening. Hearing is automatic, but listening requires effort and mindfulness. Effective leaders listen with empathy rather than just responding. So, anybody from the class, what three elements does the Chinese symbol for listening include? Anybody could answer. It's in the textbook, but anybody know what the symbol for listening includes? Nobody. Okay.
Obviously, didn't read your text.
So, listening is when you use your ears, your eyes, and your heart to give undivided attention. So, effective leaders listen with empathy rather than just responding. The Chinese symbol for listening includes the ears, the eyes, and the heart, emphasizing full engagement. Psychologist Carl Rogers' listening technique requires repeating or restating what was said to show understanding. It builds deeper conversation and avoids misinterpretation, and it encourages us seek first to understand, Seek first to understand, then than to be understood approach. So I have a quiz here. I will put the link in the chat. So leadership and communication go hand in hand. Listening with your eyes, ears, and heart fosters stronger connections. Being mindful of communication style leads to better leadership and teamwork. So seek to understand than to be understood. So I have a quiz here. I will put the link in the chat. It is open for a week. You will go in. I will be able to see the results of everyone that attempts the quiz. So I'll hand you over to my colleague to continue.
Okay, so assertive communication is a style of communication that allows individuals to express their thoughts, feelings, and needs openly and honestly while respecting the rights and opinion of others. So, the key features of assertive communication are clarity and directness. This means that you clearly state your thoughts, your feelings, and needs without ambiguity. Use I statements to take ownership of your message. For example, I feel sad, happy, or I need water or juice or whatever the case may be. Number two, respectfulness. Show respect for the other person's feelings, opinions, and right? Avoid interpreting, belittling, or criticizing others. Then we have active listening. Listen attentively to the other person's perspective without interruption. Acknowledge their point of view and show empathy. And lastly, we have positive and constructive. So focus on finding solutions and reaching mutual understanding. Use positive language and avoid negative or confrontational words. So in the text, there is a part where they talk about the different types of assertive communication. So you have assertive, unassertive, and aggressive, which is what I will show you next. But before I move on, I want to share with you some of the benefits of the assertive communication. So when you talk to people with that respect, when you listen first, as Jamel said in her previous slide, where she talked about, listening first and then, getting your point across. When you do these things, you have you improve on your relationships, right? Assertive communication fosters mutual respect and understanding, leading to healthier and more positive relationships. You also get reduced stress because you're not stressed out. You're taking turns and you're taking your time. It's not something where you have to argue and these kind of things. Increased self-esteem. Confidently expressing yourself can boost your self-esteem and sense of self-worth. Instead of you're trying to explain something this and somebody not taking you on or whatever. So you have to know who you're talking to and make sure that that respect and that assertive communication is set. You have effective conflict resolution. Assertive communication helps in resolving conflicts constructively as it encourages open dialogue and mutual problem solving. So this topic also ties in again that conflict resolution that we talked about earlier. When you have assertive communication, you will obviously it will be easier for you to resolve all your conflicts because even when in the video of conflict resolution they talk to you about how you need to communicate with people and express yourself so that you know the issue can be resolved. And yes, while you express yourself, you have to give that other person a chance to express their feelings as well. And that is what assertive communication is all about. Right? So next slide, please, Jamal. Right. So types of assertiveness. You have assertive communication, which is what we just talked about, but I'll give you another definition. So, assertive communication is a balanced communication style where individuals express their thoughts, feelings, and needs openly and honestly while respecting the rights and opinions of others. You have the unassertive, or they also call it passive communication, which your definition would be an assertive or passive communication is a style where individuals avoid expressing their thoughts, feelings, and needs, often prioritizing others' preference over their own. And then, of course, you have aggressive communication, which is a style where individuals express their thoughts, feelings, and needs in a forceful and hostile manner, often disregarding the rights and opinions of others. So, in this table, you'll see they gave you like examples of what each one of this means. So I'm just going to go through it with you. So non-assertive will be, long rambling statements or fill-in words, for example, maybe, or frequent justification. So every time you talk to this person, they have something to tell you right back to justify it. They don't take the time to listen and actually understand um, what you're trying to say. So apologies and permission seekers. Few I statements is more um more concerned about what the other person is talking about and not giving their opinion. Self put downs, for example, I'm hopeless. Phrases that dismiss own needs, for example, not important really. So with this style of communication, you can clearly see that it's someone that they're more concerned about the other person than their self, right? Assertive. So you have statements that are brief, clear, and to the point. This is somebody who will tell you this is it and this is it. That have no if buts or maybes. So I statements. So I'd like this, I'd like that. Distinctions between fact and opinion. Suggest suggestions not weighted with advice. No shoulds or oughts. Questions to find out the thoughts, opinions, and wants of others. Constructive criticism without blame or assumption. Ways of getting around problems, right? So you could clearly see that the definition for this is exactly what it is, right? Um, which is just openly talking about what getting their point across. When we go to aggressive, you have an excess of I statements. So everything is I this and I that, I want, I need. They don't really regard the other person. Boastfulness. So you're using the word my for everything, my this, my that. Threatening questions, requests as instructions or threats. So they're not asking, they're not just suggesting, they're telling you what to do, they're threatening you. Heavily weighted advice in the form of should and oughts. Assumptions, blame put on others, sarcasm, and other put downs. So as we see here, it's more of a, this style is more disrespectful and dominate and more dominant than the other styles, while your assertive style is a more respectful, confident, positive style. And the non-assertive would be a more avoidant, indirect, kind of uh, communication. I'll move you. Solana, you could continue from here.
All right, so wrapping up the presentation, can anyone tell me what they think is happening emotionally in this scene? Anybody? The leader is stressed by, someone says the leader is stressed by a combination of opinions. Anybody else get a different interpretation? Sorry,
Um, Someone probably got some disappointing news.
someone got some disappointing news. That's what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could it
Um,
be information overload?
that's also another way to interpret it. Well, this could be, well, for me, I would look at this image and I would say that this is probably frustrated, like everybody going through a frustrating situation. Like there's a frustrated team. This is what I see here. And this is just it. Different perspectives can actually change the way that we read emotions. See, we all had different perspectives on what we think is happening here. And empathy requires understanding beyond surface level observations. Jamal, get go to the next slide. Understanding others isn't just about hearing words, it's about sharing meaning and building trust. Relational empathy helps leaders connect on a deeper level. Relational empathy is more than understanding, it's shared meaning. It's about truly seeing from another's perspective and not just acknowledging their feelings. Empathy isn't just saying, I hear you. It's about truly stepping into another's world and finding common ground. Effective leadership requires cultural and emotional awareness. Context matters. Different backgrounds shape how people experience the world. Culture shapes communication. In some cultures, directness is valued. This has been reiterated on numerous times during the presentation, and in others, subtlety is key. Leaders must recognize these differences. Empathy fosters inclusion and trust. When people feel understood, they engage more and collaborate better and innovate freely. I'm sure anybody here understands what that means, right? It means people are more likely to contribute when they feel heard. Empathy fuels engagement and creativity in diverse teams. So, how can we build relational empathy? Listen deeply, give full attention, and listen beyond words. True listening involves body language, tone, and unspoken emotions. Show that you're present. Validate emotions. Acknowledge experiences even if they differ from yours. Saying, I understand why you feel that way can go a long way in making people feel valued. Adapt communication. Understand cultural and personal differences. Sometimes adjusting how you communicate, whether using different words or a different tone, can bridge gaps in understanding. When leaders create a culture of understanding, they inspire loyalty, teamwork, and transformation. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.